There you go. There we go. All right. So we're going to jump in and look at the next chunk of the text. And here it is, chapter 3. And we're going to start with verses from verse 13 today. We got up to verse 12 last time. Someone like to read?
Oh, I haven't got it. Where is it? Why isn't it on my screen?
Are you using a computer, telephone, or are you using
telephone.
I don't know, it's going to be hard to see, isn't it? It's there.
Oh, it's not there.
Can anyone else see it?
Yep.
Okay. It's up, Cheryl.
I can see it.
Yeah, so
I can see Leon. Hi,
Thanks.
Leon.
I think maybe if you just squash your screen to the side, you'll get it. One way or the other. Keep scrolling to the side, you should get to the screen.
No, I've tried. No. Never mind.
All right. Someone like to have a read? Happy is the man. Can you see it? Shall I make it a bit bigger?
Oh, it's coming.
Someone like to jump in?
Got it in English or in Hebrew or both?
Oh, if whoever wants to read it in whatever language can do it in whatever language. If you want to read Hebrew, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll do both.
That'd be great.
Ashrei ha'am matzah chochmah. Happy is the man who finds wisdom. V'adam yafik tevunah, and the man that secures understanding. Ki tov sachra mista kasef, for her profit is better than the profit of silver. Umei charutz tevuata, and the gain thereof than fine gold. Yikara hi mipninim, she's more precious than rubies. V'chol chafatzecha lo yeshuva, and all the things you desire cannot be compared to her. Orech yamin bimina, length of days is her in her right hand. Bismola osher v'chavod, in her left hand are riches and honor. Drachecha darchei noam, her ways are ways of pleasantness. V'chol netivateha shalom, and all her paths are peace. Eitz chaim hi lemachazikim ba, she is a tree of life to them that hold on to her. V'tomcheha meusha, and happy is each one that supports her.
Right.
No, that she supports.
Well, it's either. It could be
it's
both.
alternative.
It could be either. I'm not sure which is. I think the Hebrew could support either reading. It could be
right.
either. Okay. So we've seen stuff like this before. Like the book of Proverbs is very repetitive. We have seen stuff like this before. Just saying how great she is. Like she's very valuable. If you have wisdom, you've got everything. We've seen stuff like that, and that kind of motif repeats and repeats and repeats in the book. It's a long book. It's got lots of. It's very repetitive, very boring book. So it's got lots of repetitive stuff. But there is a thing in here which we're actually very familiar with. Like when Alan was reading that, some of this should have jumped out. Which bit of it jumped out as being stuff that we already know?
The last two verses.
The last two verses. Okay, the last two verses. Now we know them well. Darchei Noam is the motto of Noah, and it was one of the reasons Noah was called Noah. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths of peace. Eitz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomchei musha is also very familiar to us.
I've always thought this was relating to the Torah because, firstly, we say it when we put the Torah away,
right.
And secondly, Eitz Chaim. When it says that Eitz Chaim hi lemachazikim ba, she's a tree of life to those who hold on to her. Eitz Chaim is the name of the rollers of the scroll, and you hold on to them just before we say this when you lift up the Torah.
Lovely.
Now I've realized that it's not talking about the Torah necessarily, but it's talking about wisdom, chokhmah.
Right. It's necessarily not talking about the Torah in its original meaning, Alan. That's correct. So it's clear from the context in the book of Proverbs that it's not talking about the Torah at all. It's talking about this personified female wisdom. Her ways are ways of pleasantness. In the context of the book of Proverbs, it's talking about wisdom. It's talking about this universal rationality or approach to the world or pragmatism or an understanding of the way the world ought to be. Actually, I think we're going to let's just read two more lines just to see even deeper what this wisdom is. So let's just read the next two verses, and this is an idea which in later sections of the book of Proverbs, there's whole chapters which express this idea. Adonai b'chokhmah yasad aretz. God established the world through wisdom. Konen shemayim b'tfunah. By understanding, he established the heavens. Like God built the world out of chokhmah. He built the world out of wisdom. But da'ato tohamot nivka'u. By his knowledge, the depths were split. Ushachakim yirafutal, and the skies dropped down the dew. That I think the implication here is that wisdom isn't just like wisdom is something fundamental to the nature of the universe. Wisdom is it's the building block of the universe. Now that's an idea which was very, very prevalent in the Greek world. The idea of what the Greeks call the logos, or rationality. The world is built rationally. We might call it science. Like the world is built, and it's built on a basis of some kind of rational, necessary way. That was a very, very strong idea in the Greek world, that the world was as it had to be. It was sort of built in a kind of mathematical or rational basis. But we find a hint of that idea here, that chokhmah, that wisdom goes right the way back, and it's the thing that the earth is actually built on. It's what holds the world together, which is a kind of radical idea. As I say, that idea comes up much later in the book of Proverbs and it becomes a kind of key idea in a couple of chapters. But we're used to the idea that God made the world alone, that God creates the world by divine will or fiat. He just speaks and the world comes into being. But there's a reflection in here of a very different idea, that the world is actually made in conjunction between God and wisdom. God creates the world through wisdom, and that's not an idea that we see in the book of Genesis. That's a very, very different idea that's coming from somewhere else entirely. But just to come back to Alan's comment, like, we sing Eitz Chaim He when we put the Sefer Torah away, and it's one of those, we sing that every week. Eitz Chaim He L'Machazi. You actually do it on Mondays and Thursdays as well. And it's so we have ritualized. We have built a ritual which includes these two verses from the book of Proverbs. And there are a bunch of different tunes to it, and it's a kind of very poignant moment in the service. And we sing it like it's one of the most, probably the one of the sections of our tefillah that's most powerful, and people are, sing most heartily. Eitz Chaim Hi L'Machazikim. It's a tree of life. She is a tree of life to them that hold on to her. V'tomchei Musha. And Darchei Darcheinon, V'chol Netivotei Shalom. Her ways are ways of presence. So, Alan, you're absolutely right that when we sing that, we definitely are thinking Torah. We're definitely thinking Torah.
So my question is, the rollers of the scrolls, which are called Eitz Chaim. Now, they had scrolls from thousands of years, and the question is, were they always called Eitz Chaim, or did we name them Eitz Chaim after this verse in Proverbs?
Well, what is Eitz Chaim a reference to?
The rollers of the Torah which you hold when you lift it up.
Yeah, but what is the original reference to the tree of the Eitz Chaim?
The Garden of Eden.
The Garden of Eden. So this is the first reference to Eitz Chaim in the Bible outside of the book of Genesis, which is really interesting. Like, it doesn't come up in the rest. Like when we get kicked out of the Garden of Eden, there's an angel there with a fiery sword whose job it is to stop us from getting back in again. And we don't get to have the Eitz Chaim. Like the whole point of the Garden of the of the expulsion from the Garden of Eden is that we're not there anymore. We're kicked out. We're not coming back. We're out of it. And all of a sudden, in the book of Proverbs, that wisdom is referred to as Eitz Chaim, and it can be an Eitz Chaim for you if you hold on to her. Like, that's an amazing use of biblical imagery in the book of Proverbs. They've nicked the idea of the tree of life, and they've read that into the wisdom literature in a quite a radical way. You see how radical it is. Like, there's nowhere else in the Bible where Eitz Chaim is referred to. It refers to a few times in the book of Proverbs. So what does it mean to hold on to her wisdom? Now, when you said the Eitz Chaim is the sticky bit that holds the Torah together, I'm not 100% sure. I think it'd be very hard to know the answer to a question where that comes from. But it seems to me that someone has actively chosen this verse to be powerfully associated with Torah. And it would be highly likely, I think, to me, that calling the handles of a Sefer Torah the Eitz Chaim came after someone made that decision to ritualize the use of this verse as the verse that we sing, which is then most powerfully associated with the Torah. So someone is manipulating us at this point. Or you could think about that in a positive way. Like there is a ritual which has been created where these words are sung and they're powerfully, emotively, and ritually and repetitively associated in our lives with Torah. Yeah, you see what I'm trying to say? And then the language of we call them the Eitz Chaim. The Torah is an Eitz Chaim. What do you mean the Torah is an Eitz Chaim? What on earth does that mean? What does it mean to say the Torah is a tree of life? What is going on? Can someone try and pick that apart? This is a weird thing. We're being manipulated at this point by the rabbis, by the creation of ritual that then powerfully influences the way we think and feel about Torah. But what just happened when we, what does it mean when we, on a Shabbat, when we sing Eitz Chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'konfer musha daracheh darchenon b'chol netivotei shalom? What is really happening there when we say that, when we sing that?
Aren't they trying to say that the Torah is the centrality of everything?
Yeah, they are saying that. And they are saying that. Do you want to say more, Richard? I mean, that's a weird thing to say because the Torah is just. Sorry. The Torah is apart from the first 10 chapters, those people in Torah chat, apart from the first few chapters, the Torah is basically just a book about family that has a bit of a family history, goes down into Egypt, gets liberated, has a relationship with God.
Yeah, but everything stems from the Torah.
What's everything? What do you mean by everything?
Whole of Jewish life. Now, it might have been totally revised and reinterpreted in the Talmud, let's say, and thereafter forevermore. But if you go to its very core, the seed from which everything springs, it's the Torah. And therefore, that's like the tree of life. Life springs from something, or we spring from something, our life, and our life springs from whatever that seed might be. But a tree is an everlasting thing. And I'm very sorry, Joel. I'm going to have to go. I've got a Zoom call at 4:30, which I can't miss.
No problem. Bye-bye. Thanks. Good that you came. You might miss the punchline here, Richard.
I know that's really irritating me.
You might miss the most important message for your life. But it's all right. It's all right. There'll be other times. Don't worry.
You're recording it.
Yeah, I am recording. I hope your meeting goes well. Okay, great. So, does anyone else want to jump into that? Like what? Like Richard
I had
said.
the thought. Oh.
Like, I'll just say what Richard said again, then we'll go on to Leon. But Richard said. Richard really spoke like a modern. Then I'm gonna critique him once he's off the line, so I can say something rude about him. But he's got to go off the line first before I say something rude. That that Richard said, well, it's the tree of life in the sense that it's the basis of our entire culture, and it generates the whole of Judaism, and it's interpreted in different ways, and it holds the entire corpus of our tradition. And if you hold on to that, you hold on to Judaism. And it's I think that what's happening with the way we're being manipulated by the tradition here is more radical than that. That would be quite a small claim. The claim that what we're being tricked into is something which is much bigger, if you see what I mean. But you'll see that there's something much bigger going on here in terms of the way the rabbis are thinking about Torah. Leon, did you want to say something?
Yeah, because I mean, my first reaction was maybe similar to Richard, which is to say, why suddenly are we using the term Torah so narrowly when usually we use it so broadly? But then I thought, well, actually, Richard said this thing about like it's stemming back to the Torah, and to take your idea that, you know, we can trace everything back and back and back to like the giving of the Torah, and it's almost like the rabbis are saying, wait, and stop there, don't go further, don't keep going back to the Garden of Eden, because in that model of the Garden of Eden, you might think there's some like mystical absolute truth in the world that you can just get at through like meditating or something, and they're saying no. Don't stop at the Torah. That's the route. And that somehow, if you're going to get to it, let the Torah be the gateway. But don't think like that. It's almost like saying there's something dangerous about going too far back to this idea of some universal truth out there.
Right. Okay. Lovely. So, I mean, anyone else? Oh, that's really helpful, Leon. Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah.
I think I'd like to keep on going in that direction, Leon. And when we sing, look, the book of Proverbs is making a very big claim about wisdom. It's saying that wisdom is the source of everything. Like wisdom, like the world is underpinned by Chokhmah. And she's great. Like she's better than gold and silver. She's the most precious thing you could ever have. You know, she gives you long life. She's wades away the pleasantness. She's a tree of life. This is amazing language, and very challenging from a Jewish parochial perspective, because wisdom's universal. Like wisdom is the thing that you do get through meditation, or through thinking, or through philosophizing, or through metaphysics, or through science. Like wisdom is the thing that's accessible to everybody. Again, this type of this literature is open to everybody. But what the rabbinic tradition does, and we're just looking at a little glance at it, the fact that we sing and we know that if you ask a child that's referring to Torah, and Alan very beautifully said, look, the eighth time is the Torah. It's the actual fabric of the Torah itself. It's even the thing you hold it up with, and you have to hold on to it physically, which is so completely not the original meaning of the verse in Proverbs. It's not what the Proverbs are talking about at all. That what the rabbis have convinced us is that there's a very, very profound association between Torah and Chokhmah. The Torah actually is Chokhmah. It is the place where you'll discover wisdom. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That we don't need to go back and do the universal thing. We don't need to meditate, or to go out into the world, or to study science, or to be involved in the universal pursuit of her wisdom, because we have her Torah. We have Torah, and her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths of peace. And that's the Torah. Her ways mean the ways of Torah. And if we want to find Chokhmah, we'll find it in Torah.
But what about, I mean, this book, the Mishlei, Proverbs, is it only talking about Chokhmah? What about Binah and Haskell, which are other things like understanding and intelligence and things like that. I mean,
yeah, but it's true. There are lots of different terms of stuff, but none of them are parochial. None of them are like. It's not like Chabad thinking that those are things that you get by studying Torah. It's like no one in the book of Proverbs is suggesting that the access point for that, for all the good stuff in life, is parochial. It's not about being Jewish. It's about universal knowledge. It's about the things that you get by reflecting on the right way to lead your life. It's the same thing that the Greeks would do, which is to say you just need to think and be. And if you want to discover truth in the world, go out into the street and discover it. Go out into the world and discover it. But
this is like the basic law, isn't it? Or
it's like natural law.
natural law, yeah.
Yeah, it's like natural law, exactly. But something is going on here where Jews are convinced, and this is one of the places where we get convinced, that if we want to know the truth, we want to know real truth, then we can find it in Torah. And there's a sleight of hand in this. There's a sleight of hand. We're tricked. We've been tricked. Now that's not a bad thing. It's an amazing thing because it's not wanting to close our eyes. I think maybe Leon was suggesting that, and Richard also implying that we want to limit ourselves, like they don't want you going back to the meditation or to universal wisdom because they want to kind of stop you at Sinai or something like that. But I think they're making the opposite claim, which is that if you want to discover universal truth, you can discover that through Torah. And that's a kind of mind-blowing idea, that Torah is the source of wisdom, that you can look in that book and you'll find the thing that the book of Proverbs keeps going on about as being this great source of truth and wisdom in the world. And you don't need to go out into the world. Like it's not that we're trying to avoid knowing Chokhmah, it's that we get it through Torah. Because Torah, if you go back to the verses at the bottom of the page, Adonai b'chokhmah yasad aretz. God created the world through chokhmah. God created the world through wisdom. And in the book of Proverbs, that means that God created the world through rationality, through the logos. He's talking like Greeky stuff. It's kind of a Greek way of thinking, but we're not reading it like that. We're reading it as God. How did God create the world? Through Torah, Chokhmah. Chokhmah and Torah are kind of the same thing. Like God creates the world through Torah. If you want to really live in tune with the world and live in tune with the wisdom of the world, keep the Torah. Keep the Torah. If you want to really live in tune with the world, then you have to keep the Torah. And that's the same Torah you're tapping into the true nature of reality. That's a crazy claim and a crazy sleight of hand. By tying together Chokhmah and Torah, they achieve this amazing sense that you aren't limiting yourself. Maybe I'd even say the opposite of what Richard said. You're not limiting yourself. It's not that the Torah is the source of Judaism. It's the Torah is the source of everything. And if you want to really understand the world properly, then lead your life in tune with the wisdom of Torah. Now sorry, Alan. Yeah.
No, it doesn't mention the word Torah here. It's just that somebody, as you explained to us, picked up this word Eitz Chaim and said, this means Torah.
Yes. And we sing it. Boy, do we sing that lustily, and we don't notice. We don't even know that it's not talking about Torah at all. We don't even know. It's amazing. It's like it is one of the key moments of the rabbinic rethinking of what Torah is. What is Torah? Is Torah the parochial little story of a weird little people wandering around in the Middle East, finding their own country and having a relationship with their God? Or is Torah the key to the entirety of all human knowledge? Is Torah the basis on which the world itself is created?
But it's so, if we are manipulated, it is so efficient. I realize that I always believed this because it is in this, there is the words, but this is the moment that we just read the Torah, and it seems so obvious that it comes to the senses. I just realized that.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. It shows how powerful ritual is.
Yes.
Because ritual is, like, in many ways, ritual is more powerful than faith. Like, what faith is this weird abstract thing, what I believe in, but ritual is incarnated. Ritual is like the thing that the patterns of your life that you build into the structure of your life. And rituals are things we participate in. We don't even need to believe them. We don't even need to understand them, because we are participants in ritual. And it's ritual that provides the most basic structure of how we view the world. And we have been, I've been a participant in this ritual of putting the Sefer Torah away all my life. All my life, I've been a participant in that ritual. And that ritual goes deep into your marrow. I cry sometimes. That's a point in the service when it brings tears to my eyes when I sing Eitz Chaim He. It's a very poignant, powerful moment. Now, the question is, how was it created? How's that ritual built? And the answer is it's built out of the connection between the Proverbs understanding of wisdom and the rabbinic understanding of Torah, and the weaving of those two together into the same thing. That the tradition manages to bind those two ideas together into one idea, which is incredibly powerful, and it sort of understands why we think that it's worthwhile studying Torah the whole time. Because it's worthwhile studying Torah because Torah is the way you get to truth, like real truth with a big T, the truth on which the universe is built. It's not just a parochial, it's not just a little story about a little people. It's the story of the world. And as such, it's universal. It's very universal language. And Eitz Chaim is amazing. Like by accessing, like the book of Proverbs is saying, that if you access wisdom, you get a tree of life, which is an amazing claim. That it's an incredible radical use of biblical imagery to say in the book of Proverbs that you can access the tree of life in the Garden of Eden that you're not allowed to access because there's an angel stopping you from getting in there. But you can have the tree of life if you hold on to wisdom. And we have managed to twist that around beautifully and to say we can have the tree of life if we have Torah. It's an amazing, amazing use of imagery. And so I think that's why it's so moving to sing Eitz Chaim He L'Machazikim, because of course we wanted the tree of life in the Garden of Eden and we couldn't have it, we were kicked out. And now we can get back into the Garden of Eden and we can cling on to the Garden of Eden and we can do it through Torah. And that is a new idea. It's a rabbinic idea. It's not even a biblical idea. It's a rabbi. It's a pure rabbi idea. It's a very clever rabbinic idea to convince us that the Torah is, if you hold on tight to it, using those handles, that you can access the Garden of Eden. You can access like life itself, the source of human life itself, which is amazing. It's amazing. It's the, okay, should I pause for a bit or do you want to go further into this? We can go deeper into it.
Yeah, I have just an idea that I am not sure how to formulate it. It's that it is like self-confirming idea, because what we are presented now, something which is made by human, and it makes us close to God.
Yeah.
And understanding the wisdom is this understanding. And the understanding which is human does not take us away, but it makes us closer. I don't know if it is clear, but it's something like self, I will think how to formulate it, but it is like positive feedback somehow. That understanding does not, human understanding does not make like what we are doing now. We are humans and understanding these verses, and it does not make us further from spiritual, but on the contrary, closer.
How does that work?
How it works, I don't know.
Is talking like this upsetting? Meaning, like, you know, if that singing of Eight Chaim Hila Machazikim Ba, which we've always done, and thought that it meant Torah, because it does mean Torah, because the rabbis say it means Torah. If when we reveal this kind of evolution of a text or an idea, does it destroy it or does it add to it? Do we get like is it helpful to realize this association that the rabbis are the ones who make this link between Torah and Chokhmah? Yeah, go on. Sorry, Alan.
I think now when I hear this now, I'm going to think of Eitz Chaim as wisdom, general wisdom, not only Torah wisdom. If I'm going to regard it as wisdom, I'm going to think of lots of other wisdom. I'm going to think of philosophy generally,
right,
which is telling you how to lead a good, meaningful life. So there are other forms of wisdom in my mind apart from Torah. I mean, to me, Torah gives me my traditional view of wisdom, my which has been passed down to me, but I'm aware there are other forms of wisdom. So if I'm going to read Eitz Chaim as Chokhmah, and I read that as wisdom, it makes me think of other forms, other forms of wisdom outside the Torah.
I wonder whether it was the purpose of this trick was to teach you the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like it was to try and tell you, like Leon said, don't bother with all the funny Greek stuff because you can find whatever you want here. It's all right here at home in the Torah, and it's like a prism through which you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, but if you follow Chokhmah of the Torah, it's all linked. It is a link to ritual because it's all in the within the parameters of what Jewish people do. Whereas Chokhmah generally is not tied to that set of rules.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's great and challenging. What you're saying is challenging.
Definitely.
Please.
I definitely think now when I'm hearing this in shul, it will make it like a much more of a moment of like high drama and tension. Because it's interesting that we sing it like as we put the Torah back. So we've just read the Torah and we thought, oh, okay, now we understand. It's all great. We get what we're doing. Then at the end, there's this sudden moment of like tension, because if there is this sleight of hand, it implies there's a tension between wisdom and Torah, between parochial and universal, or whatever it is. And so it's like the sleight of hand ends up in the end reminding us of that tension. That, oh wait, are we sure we know what that was just about, what we just did, or not?
Or maybe it's to avoid the parochial. Maybe it's to say something like it's not enough just to read the Torah. Like maybe this would be my response to Richard. It's not enough just to read the Torah. I think maybe this is people's frustrations, young people's frustrations with Torah, is that young people will say, but my kids even, like, why are you trying to convince me to limit my life and to engage with this small thing which is parochial? Like, why do you want me to spend all my time, or even a partial portion of my time, engaging with this small world when the whole big world is out there? I can travel, I can engage in psychotherapy, I can read philosophy, I can do science, I can travel. When you see the whole big world, it might make the world of Judaism seem very tiny. And it's only a small person who would engage with the small Torah. And I think some young people feel like that, like I'm trying to convince them to lead small lives. Like bloody rabbis coming along telling me to lead a small life, but I want to lead a big life. But there is some bringing together of big and small here in the book of Proverbs, because the book of Proverbs is universal wisdom, and it's the chokhmah on which the world is based. Like as we saw in verse 19 here, like God built the world out of chokhmah. It's the logos. It's the underlying principle of all of reality. And so, and the Bible contains that idea that chokhmah is everything. Wisdom is the source of everything to lead a good life. And the rabbis, by this very clever, gentle little trick, associated between that universal chokhmah and the parochial Torah of the people of Israel, and said they're connected in some profound way. They're kind of the same thing. You don't have to limit yourself. If you study Torah, you're not limiting yourself. You're blowing your mind. You're not leading a small life. You're leading a big life. And you can access the deepest truths of the world through this tradition. You're not leading a small life at all. You've got access to the tree of life itself. Like you can access the tree of life, like the source of all life is available through this thing. You don't have to lead a small life. You'll lead the biggest life possible. A life that's in tune with the rhythm of the universe itself. Because the universe was built with chokhmah, which is Torah. That's a radical new idea. That is not an idea that's contained within the Bible itself. The Bible does not contain that idea, but the rabbis really believe that. The rabbis believe that's one of the new rabbis. It's a rabbi idea. And just to show you how maybe central is the rabbi idea. Let me just show you another text. It's going to take me a couple of minutes to show you this. Sorry, are you happy to go in this direction? Is this kind of interesting, or is it if I stay in this vein just for a bit? Okay. So we might not finish on time, but are you all right, Cheryl? Are you following?
Yes, I'm very tired, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's right. So I want to. How much is everyone else awake and happy to do something like that? Just take a second.
Yes.
So the wisdom of Ben Sira. This is we're going to look at another piece of wisdom literature. This is a text that's written about in the Second Temple period. It makes its way into the Catholic Bible. It's in the Apocrypha. It's in the external text for Christianity, and it's written in Hebrew, written by a Jew. It's like Jewish, more Jewish wisdom literature from about 200 years.
Hi.
200 years before the Common Era. So this is a text from it's very, very early it's quite pre-rabbinics, but I just wanted you to see that some of these ideas are kind of floating around after the Bible and before the rabbinic period. So let's just read out. This is chapter 24 of the Wisdom of Ben Sira. Okay, so someone like to read. This is talking about wisdom. Someone want to have a go at that? Want to read, Alan?
Okay, wisdom sings her own praises. Among her own people, she proclaims her glory. In the assembly of the Most High, she opens her mouth. In the presence of his host, she tells of her glory. From the mouth of the Most High, I came forth and covered the earth like a mist. In the heights of heaven, I dwelt, and my throne was in a pillar of cloud. The vault of heaven I compassed alone and walked through the deep abyss. Over waves of the sea, over all the land, over every people and nation I held sway. Among all these I sought a resting place. In whose inheritance should I abide? Then the Creator of all gave me his command, and my Creator chose the spot for my tent. He said, in Jacob make your dwelling, in Israel your inheritance. Before all ages, from the beginning he created me, and through all ages I shall not cease to be. In the holy tent I ministered before him, and so I was established in Zion.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. Thanks, that's great. So the wisdom of Ben Sira, 200 years before the Common Era, right in the middle of the Second Temple period, we have this idea that wisdom, which we have an idea which we saw in the book of Proverbs, that wisdom is there from the beginning, in the assembly of the Most High, like before the creation of the earth. She's like right there, right at the beginning of when there's God and heaven and the sea and the abyss and the waves, and that's all there is. And then she asks herself, where am I going to hang out? In verse 7, where will I rest? In whose inheritance should I abide? And then God says, the Creator chose the spot for my tent. Make your dwelling in Jacob, in Israel, your inheritance. Meaning, like, this is where I want you to live. So the wisdom which is there, and which is the logos, the wisdom which is the underpinning of the universe, is there is built into the fabric of the world. And then where should she hang out? She asks God, and God says to her, well, hang out with Jacob. Like, you're going to live in Israel. I'm going to skip a bit just in the interest of time. And verse 12, I struck root among the glorious people. Like I put down my roots. Wisdom, who had been there from the very beginning, put her roots in amongst the people of Israel. Blah 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 blah. She's great. She's so fantastic. Let's go from verse 22. Whoever obeys me will not be put to shame, and those who serve me will never go astray. This is still wisdom speaking. Verse 23. All this is the book of the covenant of the Most High God, the Torah which Moses commanded us as a heritage for the community of Jacob. That is the most explicit statement that you can imagine of saying that Chochmah is Torah. Like, she came down from heaven, and she was found in this book, which is called the Torah. And she's now available. Like, now she who was there from the beginning of the universe is now available in Torah, and she is Torah. All this is Torah, which is like, this is like really intense. It's very intense. This is this is a new idea. A new idea is kind of creeping in, that the Torah, the actual Torah itself, is that wisdom. It is that wisdom. And that idea, then I'm just gonna. Is this enough, or do you want to like maybe next time I'll take it a little step further and show how this comes right into the rabbinic tradition, because that was from the wisdom of Ben Sira, which is not part of our canon, but it was definitely part of the intellectual religious world of the Second Temple period. And the wisdom of Ben Sira is quoted in the Talmud, and it's also quoted in the Talmud as if it's an authoritative text. So the Talmud treats the wisdom of Ben Sira as if it's authoritative.
So this.
Oh, excuse me.
Please.
Why it did not come? Why it is not part of our Bible?
I don't know why. Look, they had to decide.
Why it was not included?
They had to decide which bits get in and which bits get out. I don't know. I don't remember it seeing. There is a discussion in the Talmud about which bits of the Torah get included. The process of canonization is a rabbinic project. Like, the decision about which books are included in the Torah, we actually get to see that in the Talmudic tradition of exactly how and at what stage which books of the Bible get included. I would need to look and see if there is a Talmudic discussion about why Ben Sira is in or why Ben Sira is out. And I don't know the answer to that question. But what I can say with absolute certainty is that the idea that we've just seen, which is that there is a certain point, and we can actually probably see the point when this is happening. It might happen a little bit before Ben Sira, that there's this this idea which is coming into rabbinic thinking and Jewish thinking of an association between Chokhmah and Torah, a link between wisdom and Torah, which is a very, very potent association, which has all sorts of implications about Jewish culture, about how we do Jewish culture, and what Torah is, and how we learn Torah. It's a very, very powerful association, and it appears in Ben Sira, and then it comes back in various midrashim very, very powerfully, which also make a very strong link between the book of Proverbs and the Genesis narrative. And we haven't got time to finish that off today, but maybe I'll finish that off next time to go in. Next time, I think what we'll do is I want to kind of weave the way, show the rabbis even more deeply wove a web which made an association between Chokhmah and Torah, and put it right at the beginning, and put that right in the center of the midrashic process as well. So it's very clear in their minds that association is central to the midrashic process, the process of rabbinic Judaism itself.
But what you're saying here is you're saying that Ben Sira had this idea before whoever it was decided that Eitz Chaim meant the Torah handles.
Yafé, and it might well be great. That's really that's a great place to end, Alan. It might well be that the decision to include the book of Proverbs in the canon, the biblical canon, is influenced by the wisdom of Ben Sira. I'll say that again, because whoever includes the book of Proverbs in the Bible is mad. The book of Proverbs shouldn't be in the Bible. It's talking about a feminized goddess called Chokhmah, who is all that you need to search for, more precious than rubies, all the things you can desire, and she's the thing that's going to provide you with the length of days and with honor. And this is radical talk, suggesting that this female personification of wisdom is what you should search for in life. If you allowed that idea free reign in the tradition, you could destroy Judaism, because it would basically say to people, what you should be searching for is Chokhmah. And the amazing thing that Ben Sira does is he says, well, Chokhmah is Torah, because Chokhmah was there floating in the background, and then she asked God, where can I live on earth? And God said, well, you can live amongst Jacob, and that is Torah. Ben Sira says that very, very explicitly. What I'm suggesting is that the decision to include the book of Proverbs in the Bible was influenced by that way of thinking, because the rabbis are deeply committed to the idea that Chokhmah is Torah, that Chokhmah is Torah, and that overlap is one which that's an idea that they really internalize very profoundly. And the most profound way of internalizing something is through ritual. So by placing book of Proverbs chapter 3, 17 and 18 at the very heart of our Torah service, they ritually reify, bring to life the idea that Torah is Chokhmah, and that Chokhmah is Torah, and that all life flows from the Torah, which is a new idea in the rabbinic tradition. It's an idea that is very powerful, and they ritually assert it right in the middle of our prayer service. And it's a radical step for Judaism to take, and it's really, really interesting. And it is what allows us to read the book of Proverbs and to have the book of Proverbs as a document which is actually in the canon. It wouldn't be in the canon probably if it wasn't for Ben Sira and that kind of philosophy that allows us to say that the Torah is Chokhmah. Because what you don't want in life is kids running around saying that Chokhmah is the enemy of Torah. You don't want anyone to think that Torah is a way of deluding yourself and that you won't find Chokhmah in the Torah. what you want for yourself and for your children, for ourselves as well. We want to think that what we're uncovering when we learn Torah is Chokhmah, is all the good stuff which we've been talking about for a month and a half, 2 months now. We want the life of Torah to be the way that you get access to all the good stuff in life. And we want that really badly, because if you believe that Torah is going to impede your relationship with Chokhmah, it won't give you the good life, then you'll run a mile, you won't run towards Torah. And what the rabbis are trying to do is to tie all that together, very influenced by Ben Sira, to tie it all together and to show that actually, if you really want the good life, you have to find that within the synagogue and not outside the synagogue. Okay. This is heady stuff, but very, very interesting, I think. For me, this is really powerful stuff, very, very interesting and important. And it sort of is quite close to the heart of what the rabbis, what the rabbinic project is in a way, because it's quite a radical shift in Jewish thinking to make that association between Chokhmah and Torah, and it's quite close to the rabbinic project. Like, what is the rabbinic project? Has anyone got a final comment? I think what we'll do next time, it depends whether this feels a little bit too abstract or a bit dry. I think this is like as juicy as it gets, but I would be happy to do one more session where I sort of showed a bit more, even more closely how the rabbis did that in terms of that shift, that fits to make an association between Torah and Chokhmah, and then what that means about how the rabbis view the Torah itself. Like, how did the rabbis come to revise what Torah is? Because it's the rabbis who invent a new version of what Torah is in the world, which is what we're looking at the moment. The rabbis invent a new version of what it actually is Torah. Okay, if you followed that, you're doing well. Doing good. Okay. Should we call it a day? Let's stop sharing.
Joel, I have a question.